We're going to talk about why most people will never make it through your game and why that matters coming up. What's going on, guys? Tim Ruswick here from Game Dev Underground, and today we talk about a cool subject because this has been a kind of a common theme throughout a lot of the videos that I've created, a lot of the blog posts that I've written. There's a section in my upcoming book about it. This is a recurring theme in a lot of the stuff I talk about, and it's so critical to game development because a lot of people don't realize this simple concept, and that's most people don't finish games. The vast majority of people don't finish games. And what does that mean for a game creator, right? Like, why does that matter, and what are some things that you can learn from it? Well, I think the important part about this whole thing is that you really have to understand why people play games, right? And they play it for entertainment. They play it for escapism. They want to experience something that they can't experience in real life. And that's why the game experience is so important. But a lot of times, people will lose that excitement or the desire to play a game halfway through, or sometimes life gets in the way. Sometimes things come up. Sometimes when you save the game, you really mean to get back to it, but it doesn't happen. So you got to understand that that's fundamentally how games work, right? That most people just don't get to the end. That's just a normal part of how it works. So as a game developer, you have to plan for that. You have to make absolutely sure that you understand that concept, and you have to put plans into action assuming that's going to happen, because it always does. And so one of the things that I've talked about a couple times with that specific, like, planning in game development, planning through the process and preparing for the player not to finish, is starting with the wow. And what I mean by that concept, excuse me, is you want to start with something that really wows the player. You want to open up with a epic battle scene, or some pivotal moment politically for the world, or some crazy mechanic, or the introduction to a crazy story, or something visually pleasing that the player really gets into, or just anything at all that will grab your player's attention and make them say, wow, like, this is cool. This is something that I want to play. Because another thing that you'll look at, if you actually look at some of the statistics of games, is that there's a lot of very highly rated games that have very low finish rates. So how is it that people will rate games and they'll give a game 5 stars if they don't finish it all the way? That's because they're rating the game based on their experience of the single part of the game that they played. So it makes more sense to put way more focus on the beginning part of the game, and the closer to the beginning, the more focus you put on it, the more specific it is. I'm not saying you should make a shit ending or have your game end in a shitty way, or put no effort at all into how it wraps up. But I'm saying that the importance is really should be focused on the beginning of it. And I think one of the things that you can do, because you understand that you need to start with the wow, you really need to wow the player up front, you really need to make sure that they understand this cool thing. You want to build anticipation, because anticipation is one of those beautiful things. It's a beautiful tool in all kinds of entertainment, movies, games, all kinds of stuff. And when you use anticipation correctly and you build up to a moment, you're going to keep the player engaged. And studies have shown that anticipation is actually more important than receiving a reward. So anticipation of an event or reward, in this case, can actually be more intriguing and more interesting to the player than actually giving them something or actually showing them the event. It wires our brains differently. So if you can build your game in a sequences of anticipation, you open with a wow, you build anticipation to the next part, then when that resolves, you build anticipation on the next part, almost like a TV episode, right? Like, If you watch your favorite TV show, usually the last minute or two of the TV show sets up a crazy event that there's no way that that could happen, and it's crazy. You got to watch the next episode. I got really into Vampire Diaries for a long time for that very reason, because I was like, holy shit. At the end of every episode, there was like something I was like, no way, that can't fucking happen. And so that show, like, it dragged me on for like 5 seasons, so I was like, okay, I don't have time for this shit. But, like, good entertainment does that, right? Like, it keeps you hooked in with anticipation. And I think if you understand that most people don't finish your game, it should be your goal as a game developer. It should be one of your main design decisions in the game is to build anticipation as routinely and as long and as often as you can to keep a player moving through your game, because ultimately you want people to finish your game, right? But most people don't. So you got to keep in mind that that's almost going to happen by default. So it's kind of your job as a developer to build something that will increase the likelihood of them finishing, that will show them the path of how they can do that, that will reward them for continuing on. And I think it's really important to understand that, because that's what makes a great game. But even if you don't go that far, right? Even if you don't build in the anticipation and do all these different things to kind of get players to go farther in your game, creating that first little nugget of awesomeness in the beginning, the wow in the beginning, can really make or break your game. Because if a player only plays 10 minutes of your game and they never pick it up again, if those 10 minutes are the best part of your game, they're going to talk great and very highly about your game to all their friends and on Steam reviews and all kinds of stuff, whatever it is. But if those 10 minutes are boring and they don't really know what's going on, a lot of people will quit right there and they'll talk shit about your game and they'll leave bad reviews and they'll do that. That tiny little chunk is the most important part of your entire game. So you really need to understand that if you want to design a great game, and I think most of us here do. So that's all I got for today. I just wanted to share that with you guys. Once again, I'm Tim Ruswick. I would love to hear your comments below on this. I always love to hear from you guys. I'll see you guys in the next video.